And we're finally live again. For anybody that is watching this, this is what the third run I think we have of trying this out. Mainly because I don't know what I'm doing. But my whole goal was to start just kind of a video dialogue between authors and aspiring authors and upcoming authors, just to get a sense of who they are, what they're writing, and a little bit about themselves that we don't usually get from the question and answer things you see on blogs or social media. So today I'm being joined, thankfully, by Kate M. Colby, who is getting set to publish her first novel. So beyond that, thank you, Kate, for coming aboard.
Yes, thank you for having me, Jonas.
So for those who don't know you or aren't subscribed to your blog right now, tell us a little bit about yourself, things like what got you started into writing.
Well, I consider myself a fiction author, and I also do a little bit of creative nonfiction, and blogging, like you said, is kind of my main thing right now. I got started writing when I was about 7. I was in 2nd grade, and my teacher had us write our own storybook. And I remember mine very clearly. We had just learned about the Civil War, so I wrote a story about a girl who was escaping her servitude on a plantation and following the Big Dipper north to freedom. And my teacher really liked it, and she encouraged me to keep writing and making stories, and it's kind of just continued from there.
Well, great. So coming up with teachers, was there certain teachers that helped push you past just knowing that being an author was something you wanted to try?
Yeah. My 5th grade teacher was also a really big lover of creative writing, and she had us do creative writing time every day in class, and afterwards she would let us come up in front of our peers and share our stories. And she was really the first one who pulled me aside and said, "You know, Kate, all those books you read, they're written by real people, and that's what they do for a job. So you could do this too one day." And I mean, that was like mind blown. Never even realized that that could be me. And then in high school, I had another teacher who was also an English lover and really into books. And she was the first one who really pushed me towards publishing. And she gave me a copy of Writer's Market so I could see all the different publishers and learn about how to submit to agents and that type of thing. So I've been very lucky to have a lot of supportive teachers in my life.
Great. And I know we've discussed it already, but we've gone over traditional versus indie publishing, and you're planning on independently publishing yourself, correct?
I am.
Okay, and with that, tell us a little bit about, because we'd already discussed it, but the differences between traditional and indie publishing, they're kind of shifting, because at one point in time, indie publishers were kind of just seen as novice writers, basically, and I think nowadays they seem to be kind of changing that over. Do you agree with that, or?
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. Going through a creative writing course in university and getting my degree in that was a very traditionally minded world. And the mentality was, okay, you apply to literary magazines and get articles published, and then you go get your MFA, and then you teach, and then you beg to have your book published. And, any independent publishing, those people are lazy, they're not good enough to get traditionally published, like they're basically the scum of the writing world, and just ignore them. And, I mean, so I had that mindset, 2 years ago, and finally my husband introduced me to independent publishing, and I turned my nose up at it, but he made me listen. And he introduced me to the Rocking Self-Publishing podcast, and one episode in, I was convinced. Like, I knew that indie was the way to go. And I think as indie authors become more professional and become more cognizant of the stigma and actively work against fighting it, I definitely think the publishing industry is going to shift and it's going to be indie dominated in the next 10, 20 years.
Yeah, and with what I notice is a lot of publishers, or not publishers, but writers themselves are going on social media and they're drumming up a fan base that way, and they kind of the need for publicists and things like that seem to be getting less and less just because people can kind of drum up their own publicity anymore.
Mm-hmm.
For you starting to write your book, have you started looking into, beyond blogging, but just as far as writing, getting a fan base in, or start doing some research as far as who you're tailoring your book to?
I'm trying. Honestly, it's really difficult because when I started my blog, I had this idea that, okay, well, my readers will just come here. But I'm realizing that I'm writing a lot more for other writers. And I like that, and I'm happy to do that and share what little knowledge I've gained so far with others. But I do think it is difficult before you have a book out to reach readers. But I have a pretty active social media platform, and I'm trying to put myself out there and do things like this where it's like, hey, I'm writing a book. It's going to be awesome. So hopefully people will find me and it'll snowball.
Yeah, and the way I always imagine it is that now with all these people that are able to do all this through technology and their own writing, it feels kind of like you're one person in an entire ocean, hoping that that lifeboat will see you and you'll get noticed and snatched up and become famous and become, or not necessarily famous, but become noticed, I guess. And I guess thinking of your awesome book, why don't we go to that and tell us a little bit about it? What's it called? What's it about?
My book is titled The Cogsmiths Daughter, and before anyone goes to Google, Cogsmith is a made-up word, but it fits really well in the story. I call it a steampunk dystopian, and to give you a pop culture frame of reference, I think of it as Noah's Ark meets King Henry VIII meets Mad Max. So
awesome.
Yeah. Thanks. So basically, the concept behind the novel is that the steampunk world, as we know it in the canon, undergoes an apocalyptic flood, much like in the story of Noah's Ark. And they're on a steamship trying to survive in the ocean, and eventually all the water runs out and they get stranded with their ship in a desert. And then fast forward a few hundred years and you get into the plot of my novel. So in this world called Desertera, there are 3 crimes that are punishable by death: murder, treason, and adultery. And the king has been trying to trap his wives into adultery so that he can basically get rid of them when he gets bored of them and get a new wife. And the nobles start to catch on to this, and they're not very happy about it. So they find my protagonist, Aya, and hire her to seduce the king and basically beat him at his own game.
See, sounds awesome to me. So I know you've started or you're finishing up on the editing process. Is there a release date that you're shooting for, a goal that you're trying to meet?
The latest I want my book to be on the market is November. I did write it for National Novel Writing Month last year, so that takes place in November for anyone who doesn't know. So that gives me a 1-year time span to get it out.
That's pretty good. I think you're on the right track, especially if you've done editing before summer comes around. For me, I was really impatient, and I tried to push my book out as soon as I possibly could. So for you, do you feel like you're on track with where you want to be with it?
I think so. Optimistically, I think I'm a little ahead of schedule. I'm almost done with my first round of revisions. I'm hoping to have the second draft done today. which again might be a little optimistic. Um, so after that, it goes to a professional editor and a cover designer, and it's basically in the hands of the professionals and how long they take with it. So I'm hoping I can get it out sooner.
Well, great. And do you have any advice or tips or anything like that as an upcoming author to people that were in your shoes, say, a year ago for their own NaNoWriMo month?
Yes. So this is something I read, I can't exactly remember where, but it changed my life. Stop asking for permission. I think as writers, especially with traditional publishing, we have this idea that someone needs to approve of us. Someone, a teacher, a friend, someone needs to validate that our writing is good, and then an agent needs to validate that our book is worthy, and just all of these things. And I promise you, the second you stop asking other people for permission and take control of what you want to do, you'll do it. I made that shift, it worked for me, and I'm almost there.
Almost there. So for you, then, you must have been waiting for, was it somebody in particular, or just like a mindset as to somebody who's going to come in and tell you, you're good enough to write now, so get on it?
Yeah, I think it was a mindset. First, it was like, okay, I have to get my bachelor's, and once I have my bachelor's in creative writing, then I'll be good enough. And then I had this idea that I needed to go get my MFA, and then that would make me good enough and worthy. And, finally I read that and it clicked, and I was like, no, look how many great writers are out there in the world without a formal education. They started just like me, and why can't I do it too?
Exactly. And I guess me thinking, I always try to do a what if scenario for pretty much everything that I come across in life. If you thought back to some of the more famous authors of today, do you think that the same type of people would make it? Take people like Stephen King or John Sanford or any number of famous authors right now. If they were stuck in the world today of, I can go out and I can publish my book tomorrow if I had it, just because it's available through Amazon or wherever, do you think that they would be able to stay up to par with everybody else that's out there?
When it comes to authors like Stephen King, who are relatively contemporary and are able to consistently put out book after book and have it well received, I really do think that authors like him could make it. What I think that is really interesting is I think back to the Fitzgeralds and the Hemingways, who, very much embody that suffering artist mentality, and I don't think they would make it. I think they would get maybe a one-book deal, and it wouldn't really sell that well, and they would be out, because I don't believe you can be a suffering artist anymore. I think it is sink or swim in this industry nowadays.
Yeah, and touching back to one of the things you said, how indie artists were thought of as kind of lazy and slobs of the writing world. Being an indie author, I'm sure you could probably attest to the same thing, that it's hard work and it's constant work if you actually want to get anything going. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I still have a day job, obviously, and between commuting and everything, I'm there for 9 to 10 hours a day, and then I come home and I have dinner and I work for another hour or two. And on the weekends, I work at my writing for, at least 4 hours a day, minimum.
That's on the weekend.
Yeah, on the weekends. So,
that's real commitment right there.
Yeah, well, and it's not always writing. Sometimes I'm doing things like this. Sometimes I'm working on a blog, or I use Hootsuite for a lot of my social media, so maybe I'm scheduling that. But I try to commit myself to a minimum 1 hour a day of something that advances my indie author career.
For you, I know for me, I kind of have to, I'm still trying to find the right rhythm to a schedule as to, I need to set aside an hour a day for this, or a block of time for that. And same as you, having a day job and a family and everything. Um, do you work with your spouse in order to try and, I don't know, coexist that level of, okay, I got to go right now, you got to do your own thing right now?
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky in that my husband is applying for graduate school, and he's very much trying to make it as a scholar. So what we do is we sit in the study together, and this is actually his desk that I'm using. That's mine back there. And we'll write at the same time, or he'll be reading articles online while I'm doing something. So we share the work time. And I think that's nice because it makes it a little less lonely, and neither of us has to feel guilty about what we're doing.
Okay. Well, kind of touching on the where you're writing in the background there. If you had the ability to pick your perfect writing location, area, atmosphere, anything like that, what would be your best one?
I would love to have a cabin in kind of a wooded area that maybe overlooked a lake, and have a writing room that was like a whole wall of books on one side and then a whole wall of windows on the other. So that had a lot of natural light, and I could look at the nature and everything.
Encompass everything in one. Yeah.
Yes, very idyllic.
Well, off of the topic of our your books and everything like that, what are your favorite things to do outside of writing? Do you have hobbies or volunteer or anything like that?
Sometimes it doesn't feel like I do much other than work. But when I do take time for myself, I try to read, which, I mean, what author doesn't? I really love video games. My husband and I play a lot of video games together. We have a cat, so I like to dote on my cat and spend time with him. So I'm pretty much a homebody.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Ah.
So, you and your husband play video games. What kind do you play together?
Well, when we play together, we have to play the games that I like, because he likes a lot of first-person shooters and that type of stuff, and that's not me. So we're just wrapping up Diablo 3, which is like kind of a role-playing type game, and it's got fighting and stuff, but it's with magic. And then I really like Little Big Planet, that series. So that's like a 2D platform, kind of like the old Mario style, but with really cute little creatures. So that's what we're working our way through right now.
Okay. On to a different question. If you could eat any kind of food, not have to worry about gaining weight or anything like that, you wouldn't get sick off of it, it would just be one subtle, sustainable food for the rest of your life, what would you pick?
Ooh, probably Dairy Queen Blizzards.
Any particular flavor or just whatever?
Well, my favorite is double fudge cookie dough. Like the best of all worlds. It's ice cream, cookie dough, and chocolate, just all rolled into one.
Yeah, it doesn't really get too much better than that, does it?
No. No. But in the real world, if you eat too much, you do kind of get a little sick to your stomach. So.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
No.
Okay, well, that was pretty much all the questions I had, and what I was going to give you is just kind of a little speed round, just a mini A or B type scenario of which would you rather. So I only have about 5 of them, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, first one, rainy days or sunny?
Sunny.
Okay, hardback or paperback?
Ooh, paperback.
Paperback or electronic?
Probably paperback.
Okay, Saturday morning cartoons or winter sledding?
Ooh, winter sledding.
Okay. Fast food or commercial or comfort food? Excuse me.
Comfort food.
What's your favorite comfort food?
Ooh, good macaroni and cheese.
Not bad macaroni and cheese?
Well, yeah, obviously not bad. But like, really cheesy with some peas mixed in or something. Yeah.
Or some substance, Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Off of that, would you rather have Kraft macaroni and cheese or that Velveeta shells and cheese?
Ooh, Kraft.
Old school in it. That's
Yeah,
nice.
back to childhood.
Back in the day. Okay, that's all I had for today. I want to thank you again for being able to stop by and give us a little insight into who you are, what you're writing, and little personal things that make it a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to get out and reach some new people.
Great, and I hope that we can do this again, maybe closer to when your book is ready to release, or maybe right afterwards, so we can get kind of a before published and after published type of point of view. How's that?
Yeah, that would be great. And I promise I will have a solid, succinct book pitch by then. I'm still working on that one.
It's always going to be a work in progress, I guarantee it. But thank you again, and until the next time.
All right, thank you.